Hello, everyone. This is Karen M Rosner. I will be reading my chapter, They Told Me I Couldn't, So I Did. I recently found myself pivoting again, both professionally and personally. Not in a dramatic way, everything is falling apart kind of way. Nothing like that. More like those quiet shifts life asks of you when it's time to grow, adjust, and keep moving forward. The kind of pivot that happens when you pause, take a breath, and realize you're being gently nudged in a new direction. The kind that asks you to trust yourself even when you cannot fully see what's ahead. And as I've been reflecting on that lately, I've come to the simple truth. Pivoting is not new for me. I've been pivoting my whole life, long before I knew what the word meant, before it became a business term or something people talked about in the personal growth circles. Pivoting was simply how I lived. It was how I survived and adapt, how I kept going when life changed unexpectedly. It wasn't a strategy back then, it was just life. You see, I was born with 2 congenital heart defects. From my very first breath, my life was already asking me to adjust. The first defect was transposition of the great vessels, often called TGA. The second was a hole in the septum of my heart. Let me explain in the simplest way I can. With TGA, the major blood vessels connected to the heart are reversed. Oxygenated blood, the blood that is supposed to go out and nourish the body, goes back to the lungs. And the unoxygenated blood, the blood that needs oxygen, circulates back to the body without getting what it needs. It's a life threatening condition because the body simply isn't receiving the oxygen it needs to survive. Now, here's the part that still amazes me when I think about it. That hole in my heart, the one in my septum, helped me keep alive. It allows some of the unoxygenated and oxygenated blood to mix, so at least some oxygen could get to my body. What looked like just another defect was simply a lifeline. Even from that beginning, my life has been a reminder that sometimes what looks like a flaw can also become a blessing. I was what they called a blue baby. My skin, fingernails, and toenails had a bluish tint because my body wasn't getting enough oxygen. At just 9 weeks old, I had emergency open heart surgery. 9 weeks. Most babies at that age were just starting to smile, to lock eyes with their parents, to discover the world. And I was already in the operating room fighting for my life. That was the first surgery, was only the beginning. Over 12 years, I had 5 open heart surgeries. My sixth was my last open heart surgery at the age of 35. I experienced 2 strokes. I had 2 bouts of bacterial endocarditis. I had 7 pacemakers placed in my body over a 20-year time span. On July 30th, 2003, I experienced a cardiac death. I was down for 2 minutes and 44 seconds, just 16 seconds away from brain damage. And yet, somehow, I came back. After that event, I had a pacemaker defibrillator implanted to keep my heart steady and safe. As I was adjusting to that device and learning how to live with it, the government issued a recall on the very model I had. So once again, I had to pivot. Another surgery, another replacement, another adjustment. It felt like every time I got comfortable, life reminded me that I needed to stay flexible. When I was 13 years old, I had a Harrington rods fused to my spine to correct scoliosis. After that surgery, I spent 6 months in a full plastered body cast. 6 months. As a kid, I couldn't bend, twist, or move like other children. I had to learn how to sit differently, sleep differently, and live differently. I had to take a special bus to and from school, leave my classes 5 minutes before the bell rang due to me not being able to walk quickly in the cast. And I couldn't risk someone pushing while moving from class to class. I also needed an escort. I had to adjust to be different than my classmates. I got to leave school 15 minutes early each day so I could catch my bus home. But I remember thinking at that time that at least I had the cast on during the winter. I was grateful that the cast kept me warm during that New England winter. Even then, I was finding ways to adapt and look for the bright side. Talk about learning to pivot. And finally, on April 21st, 2006, received my heart transplant. When I say that transplant pivoted my world, I mean that in every possible way. Before my transplant, my life revolved about hospital stays. I was in and out of the hospital more times than I could count. I learned not to get too comfortable with plans because they could change without warning. I might feel okay one day and then suddenly find myself back in the hospital bed the next. Holidays, work, birthdays, simply everyday routines, everything could pause in an instant. Living with a chronic illness means living with uncertainty. It means always having one foot in the present and one foot braced for change. It means living to adjust quickly and pivot, even when you're tired and don't want to. You wish life could just stay steady for a little while. And yet, even in the middle of that, life kept moving forward. To mine and everyone else's surprise, I became a mother before my transplant. I married my high school sweetheart. We started dating in my senior year of high school. He graduated from high school a year before me, but only 20 days older than me. I stayed back in the first grade due to missing so much school. We were 17 and dated for about 3 years before we lived together. He was in the Navy for 6 years. Married at 22, we wanted to try for a baby as soon as he got out of the Navy. But I was told I couldn't have children because of my heart condition. Then a fertility specialist told me I couldn't get pregnant due to ovarian cysts and other issues. I accepted that. Maybe motherhood was not in my future. Then my cardiologist made a deal with me. He said that if I did become pregnant, he would work closely with my OBGYN to get me safely through the pregnancy. But after the delivery, I would have to have a tubal ligation, so I would not become pregnant again. I agreed to that deal. About 4 months later, I found out I was already 16 weeks pregnant. Finding out I was pregnant was one of the happiest days of my life. I remember feeling shocked, grateful, and overjoyed all at once. Because of my heart condition, my son was born 9 weeks prematurely. But from the moment I became a mother, everything shifted. I was 26 years old when I became a mother. Sure, I had babysat other children when I was a teenager, but that was only for a couple of hours. With my son, I was excited and very nervous about becoming a mother. Having a child changed everything in the best possible way. Suddenly, your life isn't just about you anymore. There is this beautiful little person looking to you for love, safety, and guidance. Motherhood gave me a different kind of strength, a deeper kind. It gave me a purpose on days when I felt tired and discouraged. It reminded me that my life mattered beyond my medical challenges. Being a parent with a serious heart condition wasn't easy. There were times I had to rely on others, times I had to rest more than I wanted to, times I had to adjust plans quickly. But there was so much joy, so much laughter, and so much love. Motherhood grounded me and lifted me at the same time. My marriage ended at the age of 35 when my son was 9 years old. I had to take care of my son and my health, and I didn't want to be in an abusive relationship any longer. As I tell people, I'm happily divorced. By the time my transplant finally came in 2006, I had already spent a lifetime learning how to adapt. But nothing could have fully prepared me for how much that surgery could change everything. I was 42 years old when I got my transplant. I was told, due to my condition, that people either succumb to the condition or have a heart transplant. I decided to have a heart transplant. Receiving a new heart is not just a medical procedure, it's a rebirth, a second chance that you don't take lightly. After my transplant, I experienced life differently. For the first time in years, I wasn't constantly bracing for the next hospitalization. I had energy, real energy. I could make plans and keep them. I could walk across a room or climb stairs without being so out of breath that it took minutes to recover. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. Transplant life comes with medication, appointments, and a constant awareness of your health. But I was alive in a new way. I could breathe more deeply, move more freely, dream a little bigger. My son, who was 15 years old at the time, would piggyback me up a flight of stairs prior to my transplant. After my transplant, I climbed a flight of stairs on my own and beat my son to the top. We both we were both surprised and celebrated my win. Today, I can honestly say I'm doing well. Excellent, in fact, and I don't say that lightly. When you faced as many medical challenges as I have, you learn not to take a single day for granted. Every ordinary moment feels like a gift. A quiet morning, a simple walk, a conversation with someone you love. These things mean more than you know how fragile life can be. Throughout all of this, one constant in my life had been my work as a social worker. I've been a social worker for 38 years, and I truly love what I do. Social work was my second choice career. As a child, I wanted to be a heart doctor. I didn't know the term cardiologist. I just knew I wanted to help people with heart problems. I remember sitting in my cardiologist's office when I was about 6 years old. He asked me, he asked what I wanted to be when I grew up. I proudly said, a heart doctor. He told me a heart doctor was called a cardiologist. I didn't believe him. We went back and forth until he told me to write my dream in my chart. I carefully wrote, I want to be a heart doctor when I grow up. Asking how to spell heart and doctor, that moment stayed with me. As I grew older, I pursued pre med and planned to become a pediatric cardiologist. Then one day, my cardiologist, my heart doctor, sat me down and gently explained that he could not recommend me for medical school because of my heart condition. He said even some healthy students don't finish medical school healthy. He suggested the workload might be too much for me. He encouraged me to consider another path. I was devastated. At the time, I was married to my ex-husband. He suggested social work. My first reaction was, I don't want to take children away from their parents. But he encouraged me to speak with somebody at the college and to keep an open mind. I met with the dean of the social work of the School of Social Work. And by the end of the conversation, I had signed up. It turned out to be one of the best decisions of my life. Social work allowed me to help people in a deeply meaningful way, sometimes even more personally than medicine would have. Over the years, I have worked as child welfare, adoption, insurance, hospitals, and transplant. Eventually, I worked in a transplant clinic, one of my favorite roles. There's something incredibly special about supporting transplant patients when you live that journey yourself. I understood their fears, their hopes, and their financial stress. When I told them I understood, I truly did. Eventually, my path led me to start my own business, helping people with medical debt. This work comes straight from my heart because I lived it. I know the fear of opening a medical bill. I know the stress of wondering how you'll pay for the care you need to survive. Medical debt is more than numbers, it's fear, stress, sleepless nights. It's a heavy weight that follows you everywhere. I learned how to navigate that system for myself, how to advocate, find resources, and reduce my own debt. Once I learned those skills, I knew I wanted to help others. Now I help clients reduce and sometimes eliminate their medical debt. I work with hospitals, providers, and insurance companies. I walk alongside people during one of the most stressful times in their lives. I was able to save my clients $87,000 with medical bills in 2025. I say that not to brag, but because I want people to understand what's possible when you finally have support and somebody who's willing to advocate for you. And I love it. There's nothing like seeing a client's face when I tell them their debt has been reduced. Nothing like watching the weight lift off their shoulders. When my clients win, I win. It really is that simple. All my experiences, the surgeries, the hospital stays, the transplant, social work, and personal battles with medical debt prepared me for this work. Nothing had been wasted. Every challenge shaped my purpose. So, yes, I'm pivoting again lately, but pivoting doesn't scare me anymore. It feels familiar. It feels like growth. Life has taught me how to adjust, trust, and keep moving forward, even when the path changes. If my journey has taught me anything, is that we are stronger than we think, we're more resilient than we realize, and that sometimes the very thing that challenges us most becomes the foundation of how we help others. I'm grateful for this life, for the second chance, for my donors and her family, for the lessons, for the opportunity to serve. And I'm grateful that I get to keep pivoting, not out of fear, but out of purpose, growth, and hope. My favorite quote, my favorite quote that I live by is, "They told me I couldn't. That's why I did." Jimmy Butler. Through my life, they told me I couldn't, and that's exactly why I did.